My name is Zosimus Tarkas. In many ages past, I lived and warred in the faraway planet of Thrax, staining its ground red. I commanded armies as vast as grassy plains, slew great warriors and buried them in mass graves, and took multitudes of priceless treasure as plunder. Thraxians far and wide would dread my name, and eagerly await the day I expired. On my 1000th year of life, enemy and ally alike expected me to die. It was our way that every Thraxian, ageless as we were, should dive into a sacred pit, and leave our experience and wealth to the young. But over my years of victories, I had grown selfish, and wished to live on for new conquests and adventures. My companions turned against me, and chased me across the dry desert, until at my last breath, I tumbled into a bottomless hole, just wide enough for my wiry frame. I fell for what seemed like ages, consigned to my fate and awaiting my inevitable end. But rather than the eternal twilight of death, I was met by an angelic weeping. In the dark void, I found myself face to face with a golden-haired child, illuminated by an otherworldly glow. Facing me, unafraid of my monstrous stature, she requested my help. The child said that the race known as mankind was condemned to be judged by their maker, and once 7 seals were broken, he would decide whether they be blessed or damned, based on the character of their souls. The child had seen into the future and come to love human beings, seeing them as worth saving, and wished them to have more time to find their way. So she beseeched me, an ageless warrior from a faraway world, to find and protect the 7 seals for as long as I could. I did not know the workings of this world called Earth, nor did I care. The creature before me had saved my life, and so I was honor-bound to aid her. And so I vowed to follow her wishes, gathering and guarding the seals. And once I could prevent mankind's final judgment no longer, I will return to my red planet. In return, the heavenly child gave me the power to blend into the human race by absorbing the memories and taking the form of fallen warriors. And so I, Zosimus Tarkas, have lived through history. I have fought in your battles, present in the bloodiest of conflicts and the most crucial of crises, sometimes as a commander and others as a mere soldier. Your greatest heroes have received and appreciated my aid and guidance, and your finest moments and darkest hours remain alive in the recesses of my mind. From the deserts of Bactria to the mires of Germania, I have lived, fought, and killed. But now the time has come for me to lay down my arms and teach the youth of mankind, of the people I have met, the lessons I have learned, and the civilizations I have seen rise and fall. Welcome to India, champions! Home of elephants, curry, online scammers, and evil tech CEOs. I'm not saying we're the greatest country in the world, not even close. But we have a few things going for us. We invented zero as a placeholder, something modern mathematics would be nothing without. All Mr. Musk's science experiments would crash and burn without it. The British national food, chicken tikka masala, is probably based on butter chicken, a recipe from Old Delhi. We also make more than 1,000 films per year. In the old days, India was a maritime gateway between the East and the West. Even without our vast natural wealth, Westerners would fight over the connection our coasts offered to China and Indonesia. And don't even get me started on the things they would do for our spices. Look at this rich, buttery, fragrant culinary masterwork. This is the thing that the British killed millions of my people for. So anyways, we're going to go way back for this video. How far back? To the time when the West and the East first met. When the big man went across mountains and deserts, fighting and conquering as he went, and found himself in a land of gold, iron, fruit, and spices. So over this, we're going to be playing a game I've spent some time in. We're also going to be doing it using the Divided Impera mod, one of the many rework mods CA's attempt would be mediocre without. So big thanks to Dresden and his team. Anyways, as we play the game, I'm going to be talking a little about history, of how we ended up at the point where we're at, where India takes on the world and remakes it in its image. I'm going to be talking about a lot, so if you want to, you can skip over it. So a bit of a disclaimer, I will be citing my sources, but I'll also mainly be focusing on the less emotionally charged scholarly articles and books, the ones based more on archaeology and linguistics rather than mythology and fervor. So unfortunately, that does mean I will be prioritizing Western sources over Indian ones. It's a personal preference more than anything else, so like I said, if you're not interested, you can skip to the gameplay. Okay, let's take it back to the very beginning. A popular name for India, Bharat, etymologically probably comes from the Rig Veda, referring to the Bharata tribe of Aryans who defeated a coalition of 10 tribes, both Indo-European and non-Aryan, in the Dasrajna Yuddha, or Battle of 10 Kings, around 1300 BC. According to the text, the Bharata king Shudasha, blessed by the god Indra, defeated the 10 tribes by cracking a dike and redirecting a river onto the enemy armies, and celebrated his conquest with a grand horse sacrifice. Under the rule of the Bharatas and their successors, the various tribes of India would converge in the Gangetic plain into Iron Age kingdoms such as the Kuru and Panchala states. One of these later kingdoms, the kingdom of Magadha, would see intellectual and political phenomena that would change India forever. Magadha was centered around the modern state in India of Bihar, a state of rich cultural history and other things. It's around here where the philosophical school of Shramana originated in the 6th or 5th century BC. Shramana is an ascetic philosophy centered around monastic orders, including Jainism and Buddhism, and to some degree influencing the Hindu Upanishads. Jainism and Buddhism are important because they're historical treatises and to some degree the Brahmanical Hindu Puranas, although not completely reliable and often giving conflicting accounts, are some of the closest things we can get to glimpses of ancient India's history. The kingdom itself is one of several societies that urbanized in the 6th century BC after a period of mostly scattered tribal states, the second urbanization since the Indus Valley civilization. There were dynasties before, but history only starts going into detail about the kingdoms of Magadha with the Haryanka dynasty, founded by King Bimbisara. Bimbisara was an expansionist king during his reign from 544 to his death in 492 BC, forming alliances with kings by taking their daughters in marriage. According to the Buddhist account, things got really crazy when the son Ajatashatru, influenced by the Buddha's evil cousin Devdatta, put his father in prison. His father accepted that he would spend the rest of his life in captivity, but when Ajatashatru saw how devoted Bimbisara's wife Chalana was to him, he relented and ran with a metal club to break his father's chains. Bimbisara thought his son was coming to kill him, and so he drank a conveniently placed bottle of poison. Either way, from 490 to 462 BC, Ajatashatru would go on many conquests and expand his empire over much of the northeast Gangetic plain. There would be several more kings after him, depending on who you asked, but either way, in 413 BC, they would be overthrown by the Shaishanaga dynasty, who would expand the empire further. In 345 BC, they too would meet a bloody end as well at the hand of the Nandas. There are conflicting arguments on who the first of the Nanda dynasty was, though most sources agree that he probably wasn't a pure-blooded noble. The Puranas refer to a king called Mahapadmananda, with the Brahmin writers calling him sinful because despite ruling the kingdom, he was half-Shudra. Meanwhile, the Buddhist sources describe a king called Ugrasena, who was one day attacked by a gang of robbers, only to take control of them and conquer the kingdom. Finally, the Jain sources say that the first Nanda king was son of a barber, while the Roman historian Curtius says that he was a barber who became the lover of the queen of the last Shaishanaga king, and at a prompt killed the king. Anyways, the Nandas are important primarily because the last king, Dhanananda, would be spectacularly overthrown in the most important transition of India in the last millennium before Christ.